Hey, what's good, everybody? I'd like to welcome you guys back to the Boombox Guru channel. I'm your host, LB. So today, got another album review for you guys today. I wanted to talk about one of my favorite Ice-T albums, and that would be his third studio album called The Iceberg, Freedom of Speech. Just watch what you say. This came out in October 10th of 1989. And the reason why this album is my favorite from Ice-T is because I think at the time that this record came out, I consider this to be one of Ice-T's most complete records at that time. You know, and it really focused on something that I think that is relevant to the day. Cause the main thing behind this album was censorship. This is '89. This is when the PMRC was real heavy, going at a lot of hip hop artists, a lot of rock artists. The whole situation with Two Live Crew was in full effect. There was a lot of issues with censorship that was happening around this time, and Ice-T was one of those particular artists that was catching a lot of heat from the PMRC due to his content. And this record was his response to a lot of that criticism, particularly aimed at Tipper Gore. I can't remember exactly what she said. She made some kind of comment about him in an interview that was kind of distasteful, and that really kind of just made Ice-T just really go in on her on this particular album, man. But that's the whole theme around this record. It's about censorship, exercising your First Amendment rights, but also it also shows you that you really only have freedom of speech to a certain extent. That's really what it is showing you. Like, yeah, you do have freedom of speech, but as soon as you say something that maybe the majority don't really like or agree with, man, they're gonna shut you up. And everything, like the album cover, like if you pay attention to this album cover, this is one of my favorite album covers of all time. I just realized this. Everything from this like sticker right here. Ice-T even put his own like disclaimer on here where it says Ice-T, rated X, parents strongly cautioned some material may be extra hype and inappropriate for squares and suckers. So that even this little sticker right here, that was Ice-T's way of taking a shot at at the uptight PMRC and everything, all their efforts in trying to silence artists like himself. And the cover art is one of my favorites. And I was trying to find it. But I can't really find it right now. But I remember Ice-T explained the whole concept. Actually, here it is on Wikipedia. Ice-T explained the whole concept behind the album cover. This is one of my favorite, not only one of my favorite hip hop album covers of all time, but it's just one of my favorite hip hop. Excuse me, one of my favorite album covers of all time. You know what I'm saying? You got the homeboy with the double barrel shotgun shoved in his mouth and the two pistols on the side of his head, on the temples of his head or whatever. He's sweating, crying a little bit. But Ice-T explained the whole concept behind the album cover. He says the album's cover featuring a b-boy with a shotgun shoved in his mouth and two pistols pressed against each side of his head reflected Ice-T's experiences with the concept of freedom of speech. And here Ice-T explains the concept of that picture is go ahead and say what you want, but here comes the government and here comes the parents, and they are ready to destroy you when you open your mouth. So I thought the cover it really exemplified what Ice-T was going for and what he was trying to express uh, in this album, man. But really dig this album, one of my favorites of all time. So let's get into the songs, the track listing, because there's 13 tracks. A couple of them are like interludes. They're not actual songs, but I feel that they are a huge part of the whole theme around this record. So the first track on here is it's an interlude. It's called "Shut Up, Be Happy," and the interlude is set to a sample of Black Sabbath. Actually, the song called Black Sabbath, the opening introduction, that dark, opening introduction of the song called Black Sabbath. It's like a looped sample of that, and you have Jello Biafra, the frontman of the Dead Kennedys. He's doing this speech uh, where he goes, "We interrupt this program with a special bulletin. America is now under martial law. All constitutional rights have been suspended. Stay in your homes. Do not attempt to contact loved ones, insurance agents, or attorneys. Shut up. Do not attempt to think, or depression may occur. Stay in your homes. Curfew is at 7 p.m. sharp after work. Anyone caught outside the gates of their subdivision sectors after curfew will be shot. Remain calm. Do not panic. Your neighborhood watch officer will be by to collect urine samples in the morning. Anyone caught interfering with the collection of urine samples will be shot. Stay in your homes. Remain calm. The number one enemy of progress is question. National security is more important than individual will. All sports broadcasts will proceed as normal. No more than 2 people may gather anywhere without permission. That's an interesting line right there. A couple of years ago, a couple of years ago, it was that came to fruition. Use only the drugs prescribed by your boss or supervisor. Shut up, be happy. Obey all orders without question. The comfort you demanded is now mandatory. Be happy. At last, everything is done for you. But yeah, I remember when I first heard that, when I was a lot younger, man, I really didn't pay much attention to it. But now that I'm older and I've gotten more life experience, like listening to that is actually quite disturbing because, some of those things have come to fruition. Like the particular line where he says, no more than 2 people may gather anywhere without permission. Just a couple of years ago when we was deep in the pandemic. I mean, I understand what that was for because we didn't understand what was going on. But the thing about it was, a lot of the people that was in power, that was instituting those rules, they weren't following those rules. They were constantly being caught having huge parties without, masks and things of that nature. But they were telling us, they were like pretty much putting these rules down on us, I guess the working class people and so forth. And there's a lot of countries, not even in America, there's a lot of countries out here where a lot of these things are actually happening now as we speak, and they were happening then when this record came out, man. But I think that was a great intro. I think it really somewhat set the tone of the record, what to expect. And I think it was just perfect to have that Black Sabbath sample in the background looping as Jello Biafra made this speech, because he does the speech like a propaganda type person, like a propaganda speech type person. You know what I'm saying? But I think that Black Sabbath sample was a great choice into really conveying that message, because it is a little bit disturbing if you think about it. So hold on a minute. Oh yeah, now we go to the next song, which is called "The Iceberg." Now this song, it's not like a powerful message or anything. This is kind of like, this is one of the good things about this album, The Iceberg, Freedom of Speech, is that Ice-T, he had a really good balance of like his sense of humor and as well as the serious stuff. So this is not like a straight up like preaching to you or banging you in the head with like a serious subject matter. He does a really good balance in it and adding in his sense of humor. And that's what the Iceberg is. Everybody know the Iceberg. That's one of Ice-T's aliases, or that is his alias. Like a lot of people refer to him as the Iceberg. Iceberg Slim was one of his biggest influences. That's how he came up with his name, his stage name, his persona, and so forth, was from reading Iceberg Slim and books by Donald Goins. But this is like, I really like this track, man. It's kind of like a smooth kind of track, very pimpish vibe to it. Definitely a song that you can just throw in and ride to. And basically, Ice-T, the lyrics, he's just going through all these different scenarios with the rhyme syndicate where all of them are getting caught up in these crazy like sexual exploits with women. That's basically what that song is. But it's a cool song. I mean, as far as it being one of the opening tracks on the album, I like the whole vibe of it. Like I said, it's very pimpish in nature. It goes along with the whole title of The Iceberg. So then we get to the next song, which is called Lethal Weapon. And now this is one of my favorites on here, Lethal Weapon, because Ice-T is really explaining on here how the mind is your most powerful weapon. You know what I'm saying? Lethal Weapon tells listeners that the mind is the most powerful weapon. And one of the lines that I like from this album is called "The weapon power has been witnessed upon my page. Martin Luther's dream to Hitler's psycho rage. So, he's conveying how your mind, that's your most lethal weapon. Because if you're not really listening to the lyrics, if you just look at the title on the surface level, you think it may be Ice-T about to be on some kind of gangster kind of narrative with that track, but he's not. He's talking about your mind. Ice-T is dropping a lot of gems, a lot of knowledge on this record, and this is one of my favorites on here. I like the production on here. The production is a bit more upbeat, kind of hardcore hip hop, aggressive. To tell you the truth, I kind of harken this style somewhat similar to like what the Bomb Squad was sort of doing with Public Enemy, because Public Enemy was such a huge influence. Well, they still are, but at this time, Public Enemy had such a huge impact on hip hop that a lot of artists were like, and producers were kind of like utilizing they were kind of shifting their production standards to what the Bomb Squad was doing, and I feel like this song kind of has that in some nature. Not that it's a total, not that like it's a rip off of it, but it just kind of has that kind of vibe of the Bomb Squad. But yeah, this is one of my favorite songs, man. I really dig it, man, because he's displaying like how he's discussing how your mind can be used to make good, and it can also be used to make evil, man. Like where he has that line from Martin Luther's dream to Hitler's psycho rage. Martin Luther King had a dream, a positive dream that was impactful for all people all over the world. But then you have someone on the opposite end like Hitler, who was kind of using his mind, his insanity to like wreak like havoc and tragedy amongst the world, to like divide the world and just to create more chaos. So I thought that was a real dope concept right here. And here's another really good line from this song I like, on verse 4, where he says, more bodies than John Gotti, the lethal weapon is slaying. Just open any book that's ammo to the brain. What really matters is how well your weapon is trained. Some will say genius while others will say insane. But when he says just open any book, man, reading, I know what they say, I know it's cliche, but reading is really fundamental, man. He's talking about like reading books, getting information to train your mind. You know what I'm saying? But I thought that was a real dope concept as well. So the next track is You Played Yourself, which that was actually the third and last single from this record. And You Played Yourself, man, that just, from Wikipedia, it says You Played Yourself. It just advises listeners to be smart and not to let themselves be played. And so Ice-T on this song, he just goes through all these different scenarios where people pretty much, they allow themselves to get taken advantage of, or they make a poor choice that cost them in the end. I know there's one part where a guy, he's like paying this woman for her affection, and she ends up leaving him broke, and he doesn't even get her in the end. Another guy who I think he's like doing drugs. I think he's like smoking crack on the low, and he's like kind of scheming people to get money for it. And then he decides he wants to rob a bank. They go through with the plan, but it doesn't go well. Somebody gets shot, and I assume that person that gets shot ends up dead, and this guy ends up on death row. And Ice-T is like, it's not society's fault. You can't blame society. Nobody put the crack. Nobody made you smoke that crack. You know what I'm saying? Nobody told you to make that choice to ruin your life. And there's another one where about MCs who are MCs who really ain't living the lyrics that they talk about, man. The first verse where he talks about, I guess a lot of artists, they're like living a life that doesn't line up with the lyrics that they spit. And Ice-T, he name drops artists like Boogie Down and Chuck D and Big Daddy Kane, people who know the knowledge, because these guys were like 5%ers, and they knew the mathematics and all of that stuff. And he calls out all these people. These are people that he knows, that he has relationships with, that he knows that really know what they're talking about. Excuse me for a minute. Sorry about that, guys. But anyway, yeah, he's like talking about, he's like name dropping. These are people that he knows for a fact that really knows what they're talking about, and they leave, and their lifestyle lines up with the lyrics they talk about. So he calls out like fake MCs and so forth from that particular track. So let's move on to the next song on here, which is Yeah, Peel Their Caps Back. Now, Peel Their Caps Back, that is actually, this is another one of my favorite Ice-T songs. This song is about uh, a drive-by, or basically, it's about these guys who seek retaliation against one of their friends who was killed. And I guess I'm guessing this is about like gangs. This is about the gang culture. You know, Ice-T, you know, he's from LA. Well, he's based in LA, but yeah, Peel Their Caps Back. It's about committing a drive-by to avenge a slain friend. And unlike other songs where violence is a metaphor, the rapper's ability to defeat other rappers lyrically, this song is a stark depiction of what could lead to such event. This is coming from Wikipedia, but yeah, I think this is about a retaliation, you know, from a gang murder. And yo, this is one of the best produced Ice-T songs, man. Like this song is so cinematic. I mean, everything from the keyboards, the rhythm, everything, this whole entire song sounds like a crime film, like an urban crime drama. I mean, honestly, the way that Ice-T sets this song up, the way that it's structured, I feel like that this could have been like an outtake, like a deleted scene from the movie Colors. And we all know Ice-T was a huge part of that movie with the soundtrack when he had the song called Colors. But that's the way this whole track really just kind of struck it. That's how it's structured, man. Like Ice-T is one of the greatest storytellers in hip hop. I don't think a lot of people give him his just due for that, but everything from him chilling at the crib. He even talks about cooling in my crib, cold video dubbing. You know, he's like making a bootleg tape and so forth. And him getting the phone call from his homeboy saying that, yo, so and so got shot, he's dead, man. We riding out tonight. We about to go get these dudes. He talks about him loading up, getting all the necessary guns and everything, like his strapping on my vest, threw my 9mm small on my back. I grabbed my AK, my 16, and my baby Mac. And he said, said chill, don't leave, don't nobody move without me. Everything. He just describes that whole scenario of what happens, man. And ultimately they pull off the murder, but a lot of people end up dead, including the main character in this track. A lot of people end up dead, and the news just writes it off as another gang murder. That's it. It's insignificant. And I remember Ice-T saying that was how he came up with the idea of body count, the name for body count, because that's all that it really was at the time, was just another body count, and onto sports. But definitely a great track, one of Ice-T's best tracks in my opinion, man. Now we get to the Girl Tried to Kill Me, and this is Ice-T. This is one of those more like sense of humor type tracks where this song is about Ice-T's encounter with a dominatrix, man. And this is actually a rap metal song. This is one of the earliest rap metal songs. Ernie C is actually on the song. He's doing the guitar, the heavy riffs, a lot of amazing solos from Ernie C, man. Like, he knocked it out the park, man. And I kind of wonder, I always kind of looked at this song as kind of like the foreshadowing of what was to come with Body Count. And I kind of wonder if if Body Count was already maybe in the works, sort of in maybe an early variation of it. I was wondering if maybe Body Count was maybe in the works around this time, because it was only like a couple of years later when Body Count officially debuted on OG, Original Gangster. But it's a funny song, man. He talks about all the stuff that she does, man. Like, he just met this girl. Yo, I met this girl the other night. Hyper suit dope body and face. Her mini skirt tight. Talking about legs and lips. Mind blowing hips. Had to cross my legs just to look at her tits. Let's see. Let me get to the part where he says, now I ain't no sucker on the weak tip, but let me tell you, she was on an MF and sex trip. Took me to her crib that night. Leather and spikes. Broke out the rope and the dope strobe light and started bugging, lighting candles all over the room. Then she did a backflip, landing on my dick, and I knew that I would be dead soon. Let me get to another part where he says, yo, my pants were on, but so what? She ripped off my shirt and tied my monkey ass up faster than I could say no. It was like a rodeo. I was with a sex nut. I looked her in her face. She sweated and she grinned with delight. And then she broke out a whip and I said shit. And this girl had crazy plans for the night. But it's a funny track. I wonder if Ice-T actually had an encounter with a dominatrix, because he seemed to really have known a lot about this, man. Like in verse 4, he says, "Now whips ain't all that she had. All kind of crazy shit was at this bitch's pad. I'm talking about latex suits, spiked heel boots, oversized vibrators so that she could get loose. I said, don't whip me, and I'll do anything you ask." And then homegirl stripped 38 tits, and man, you should have seen that ass. But it was funny. But the end of the song, her husband comes on and finds Ice-T having sex with his wife, and he tries to kill Ice-T and so forth, man. But that was a pretty funny track, man. It's one of my favorites on here, man. Mainly because it's a merging of like rap and metal. So this was one of those early examples of those two worlds coming together. You see, Black and Decker is really just the interlude. Ice-T discussing all like the criticism and everything that he's getting. Him and Donald D and a few other members of the Rhyme Syndicate, but they talk about like Ice-T, he comes up with this whole thing about, I wonder what it would sound like if you took a power drill, like one of those Black and Decker power drills, and just drilled in the top of somebody's head, and then you just kind of get these like kind of sound effects of a power drill drilling through somebody's skull or whatever. Kind of disgusting, but that's really all that is. Then we go to Hit the Deck. Hit the Deck. Now, I've always looked at this song as more of like a braggadocious kind of track, and in some sense it is like that. But I think more so, this was Ice-T's kind of response to like some things he did to the censorship that he endured, man. Like, Genius says that well, the whole concept of this album was about the PMRC and like censorship issues that Ice-T dealt with on the road, like in Columbus, Georgia, where he was warned that he would be arrested if he used profanity during his performance and such. But I think Hit the Deck, even while it is a boastful type of track, I think the way that Ice-T really flexes his lyrical abilities and the way that this song comes across, it is boastful, but this is more so Ice-T kind of showing like all the critics and so forth that rap music, hip hop in general is an intelligent art form. That it's an intelligent art form, and it can be used that way. That it's not what they were deeming it as, like just misogynistic, offensive music. So yeah, he is boasting, but he's boasting. There's a purpose behind his boast. He's trying to show these people that like, yeah, rap music is intelligent, man. And I think this is one of Ice-T's best lyrical tracks, man. He knocked it out of the park, man. I really enjoy listening to how Ice-T uses the wordplay and the metaphors, the rhyme schemes, everything. It's one of the most technical Ice-T tracks that I've ever heard, man. So he knocked that out of the park with that one, and it goes to show why Ice-T is considered one of the greatest. All right, so this one's for me. That's the next track, man. So this song, this is Ice-T. He's kind of like giving his opinion about the rap scene and the music industry at the time. But I think one of the biggest things about this song is how he calls out a lot of people who didn't back up Public Enemy. Around this time in '89, Public Enemy was embroiled in a lot of controversy because Professor Griff, he had did a radio interview, and he had said some things that were deemed anti-Semitic, and it spurred a lot of controversy. You know what I'm saying? This is like over 30 years ago. So this whole thing with Kanye West and Kyrie Irving, this ain't nothing new. This is something that's happened in the past. But Professor Griff, he ended up getting dismissed from the group for a minute because of that. And Ice-T's not really going at Public Enemy, but he's just going at a lot of artists who, I guess, he felt like initially would have had PE's back, but when all this controversy came about, they kind of just cowered and didn't say nothing. They kind of like started to, I guess, disassociate themselves from like Chuck D and so forth. But that's one of the biggest things that I took from it. But it's just him just going in on a lot of things that was happening in the music industry and hip hop at the time, and him giving his personal opinion about it. The Hunted Child. So The Hunted Child, this is another one of my favorites. This is about a young man who has just committed a murder. I don't know if he's a gang member or whatever, but he's just committed a murder. This is another great story where Ice-T he's rapping from the narrative of this young man, and it's basically it's just a first person encounter of how this gangbanger has just committed a murder and he's on the run. He's got the police after him, and he's got the rival gang members also looking for him. There's a lot of people running for him, and the production on here, like, this is what I'm saying, man. Like, you could tell that Public Enemy, like the Bomb Squad in particular, has such a big impact on hip hop music, because a lot of hip hop around this time, a lot of producers were structuring their hip hop sound to be similar to what the Bomb Squad was doing. But this right here, this is one of those songs where the aggression of it, the fast paced and aggression of it, it really exemplified that first person perspective of this guy committing a murder, and his adrenaline, and the, I guess, the anxiety up to the T of what he was dealing with, because he's got the police after him, he's got the rival gang members that are looking for him too. But Ice-T just goes through the whole narrative of how this kid is, what this young man is going through, like, where he says, no joking, I'm sleeping with my eyes open, wanted for a homicide, ride, the gun still smoking, didn't know what I was doing, but I did it anyway. Now the posse's on my trail, they say I'm gonna pay. I had a gun, it's mine, I packed it. Out with my crew, the boys caught some static. Me and the sucker punt went at it. Bang, non-automatic. And then interjecting in between there, you have like news reports. Like in the beginning, like, today in Los Angeles, another youth loses his life. Gunshot wound to the head. Street violence is at an all-time high. Then you got another interjection from the news where it says sources say the assailant was 17 years old and lives in South Central Los Angeles. And it says, now I'm on the hideout tip because they're after me. LAPD said they're gonna capture me. Was I crazy? Guess I had to be. Because once you kill, it's instant catastrophe. Your whole life is over, through. Forget about your girl, your crew. Nowhere to run, so what you gonna do? Be glad it's me, homeboy, and not you. But, man, Ice-T is a beast, man. Ice-T is one of the greatest lyricists of all time. But that's another one of my favorite tracks on here, man. Dope, really, really dope track, man. All right, so next one is What You Want to Do. And, yeah, this is like a party song. It's a posse cut. It features like most of the Rhyme Syndicate along with Ice-T. So everybody, well, not everybody, but, you know, Donald D, Nat the Cat, Bronx Style Bob, Hen G, Shaquille, Shabazz, Toddy T. Oh, Toddy T's on here. Toddy Everlast of House of Pain. You get an early appearance of Everlast from House of Pain on there. But this is like a really cool posse cut. Randy Mack. They all take issues, spitting like a few bars. But they all nail it. They all kill it, man. They all kill it on here. But it's just a really upbeat, fun party track posse cut. I think one of the dopest posse cuts in hip hop, in my personal opinion. Devon Stowler's on here. I think Everlast has some really dope verses, man. He really killed it on here. Let's see here, Freedom of Speech. Now this is another one of my favorite ones. And again, I think the production right here really kind of has that Bomb Squad vibe. The beat wise, like Africa Islam and Ice-T, man, they really, you could tell that the Bomb Squad was really influencing them. But yo, this is where Ice-T really goes in on the PMRC and censorship in general, man. He really goes in. Like he goes in on like Tipper Gore and so forth. He even goes on to say, like, you know, you idiots, you putting the warning labels on the albums is making us sell more records, you dummies, and stuff like that. But he really goes in on a lot of cats on here. And then Jello Biafra, he makes a return. He does a statement at the end of the song where he talks about what they're trying to do with radio, with this McCarran Walter Act and a lot of other ways, is start by saying that they're protecting the public from wicked rock bands or girly magazines or whatever. But if you follow the chain of dominoes that falls down, what they're really trying to do is shut off our access to information itself. If they can't do it by the law, they know there's other ways to do it. So I thought that was real deep. Ice-T brings up like Bobby Brown and LL Cool J, because they, you know, Bobby Brown and LL Cool J faced a lot of issues in certain parts of America when they was on tour, being arrested, thrown in jail for lewd acts. I know Bobby Brown was arrested for it in Columbus, Georgia. Columbus, Georgia really was strict back then, man. Yeah, dang, Columbus, Georgia, man, they was on one back then, yeah. It says January 26, 89. Bobby Brown is arrested for violating a Columbus, Georgia anti-lewdness ordinance. Let's see, according to the cops, Brown pulls a woman out of the audience and begins dancing, then simulates intercourse with her. Let's see, June 87, rap star LL Cool J is arrested for simulating intercourse with a fan at the Columbus, Georgia Municipal Auditorium. Dang, man, they was really on one back then. I wonder if they still like that. But yeah, I remember Too Short. Too Short on his album Short Dogs in the House. He had a line on that song where he said that they tried to throw him in they threw him in jail in Columbus, Georgia, man. So they was really on one back then. But yeah, this is just him just going in on all these people. He goes in on Columbus, Georgia. He goes in on Temple Gore and the PMRC as well, man. And freedom of speech, man. If you if you have like the second pressing of the Body Count album, that there's a rock version of that song that replaced Cop Killer. There's a rock version of that song that replaced Cop Killer if you have that second pressing of the Body Count album. And the last song on here is My Word Is Bond. This is another like posse cut that features the Rhyme Syndicate, and just ending things off with on a light note. My word is bond. That's a popular term that means like when you say my word is bond, you're saying that yo I'm telling you the truth. But the irony of this song is that everything that Ice-T and the Rhyme Syndicate is saying is nothing but a bunch of exaggerated lies. So I don't know if this was Ice-T's way of being silly or if he was like this was him calling out a lot of rappers who were using that term and was really just lying. I don't know if this was his way of trying to slightly call out fake MCs and stuff like that lie on the microphone. It could be both. It could be like a blend of both. Him using his sense of humor and him calling people out on being fake on the mic. But that's what it is, man. It's just him and a few members of the Rhyme Syndicate. They just telling like these exaggerated lies. But all while and you hear the DJ is scratching in my word is bond and so forth. But yeah, that's the song that ends the album. And like I said, man, I really enjoyed this record, man. One of my favorite Ice-T albums of all time. Anytime I feel like getting on an Ice-T kick, this is usually the record that I go for, man. I think it's one of Ice-T's best records. Some people may say OG Original Gangster, which that is a great record too. He took it to the next level with that one, but I would consider this one as one of his best as well. Just the whole concept, the whole theme of Ice-T going up against censorship and everything that was happening in music at that time. And that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to really do a review on this record, is because I feel that even 33, probably going on 34 years since this album came out, a lot of what Ice-T talked about, a lot of what he expressed on this album is still relevant to the day. We still see it. We still see it everywhere. I mean, the new PMRC, in my opinion, is this whole thing called cancel culture that we have now. And don't get me wrong, there's some people that say stuff that, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not gonna go there. Let's just say that, yeah. Let's just keep it at that cancel culture is like the new PMRC now. Like, even if you're saying something, if you expressing something that is right, but if certain groups of people don't agree with it, man, they're gonna try to shut you up. And I remember not too long ago, somebody was saying something about canceling Ice-T, and he put out a post on Instagram and Twitter where he's talking about canceling me, man. These people these MFs been trying to cancel me for over 30 years. And he had like a LOL and a smile, a laughing emoji. But yeah, man, I just thought that it was really the right album to really talk about, because we see so much of it happening today. But yeah, this is definitely one of Ice-T's greatest records. My personal favorite from him. I always listen to this album on such a regular basis, man. It's just got a really good balance of Ice-T's classic sense of humor, but as well as him really tackling serious subjects and really, making you think about a lot of things that are going on out here in this world. But great record. If you've never listened to Iceberg, Freedom of Speech, Just Watch What You Say, you definitely need to check it out, man. One of the dopest, one of the greatest hip-hop albums of all time. And I'm glad to be able to finally do a album review on this album, because it was long overdue. But that's it for this album review. Hope you guys enjoyed that. My album review on Ice-T's The Iceberg, Freedom of Speech, Just Watch What You Say. And If you did enjoy this interview, if you could do me a huge favor, just hit that thumbs up and give me a like, because it does help the channel out a lot. Also, be sure to hit the subscribe button, tap that bell, that way you'll be notified whenever I drop new content. And I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to everybody that's been watching the videos, everybody that's been supporting my channel, I really do appreciate it. And as always, hope everybody has a blessed day, a blessed week, and love, peace, and music. Peace out, y'all.